Yeah, what's up, internet? Since Media here. And yeah, it's been a long time since the last one, as somehow always turns out to be the case. I'm no longer in sunny central Brazil. I'm in rather rainy South London now, so I won't be showing any kind of spectacular nature in this video. We're just back on my computer and looking at the user interface. We're going to do a more technical one today. So today we're going to talk about a project which I've been working on off and on for about 18 months, or you could say for more than that, for several years. And it's really a project which is a programming project, but also about me trying to learn and understand more about music theory. And as is my wont, the way I want to learn about music theory is to write codes to generate music. So if you remember some videos I did in Sonic Pi a few years ago, I was using Sonic Pi, which is a live coding programming language, to create some functions that would help me create my chord progressions. I'm not going to go too much into the theory of chords, but let's just give you a quick overview here. As you can see, I'm using this DX10. Somehow I've got into using DX10 recently. It's just a stock plugin, but I'm quite enjoying the sound for certain things. So if you look here, this is our key of, or if the C major scale. It's starting on this C here, just going up the white notes. So we can just play that. And each of these notes, sometimes, they're called C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. But relative to any scale, you can think about these as just numbers. They're what we'd call the degrees of the scale. So this is the 1, this is the 2, this is the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 8, you're back on the octave, so you're the same note, 1 octave higher. What does octave really mean? It means you've doubled the frequency of the sound wave. So we can call these numbers 1 to 7, and we call these the degrees of the scale, and we can think of building chords on each degree of the scale. Now what that means is we'll have a chord that starts, the lowest note of the chord is on the 1, right? Now that is a C major chord. It's a major chord because we go up 4 semitones here. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? To get to that first, that what's sometimes called the third, because it's the 3 note in the scale. And then we go up another 3 to go to the 5, which is the 5th note in the scale, right? I mean, that sounds complicated. It's not that complicated, and you're not going to need to remember it. But that is the major chord on the 1st degree of the scale. Now, we've got a chord on the 2nd degree of the scale. Happens to be a minor chord in this case, because we're only going to go up 1, 2, 3 to get to the 3 of it. And then we've got a chord on the 3 of the scale, and on the 4 of the scale, and on the 5, and then the 6, and then we can't actually play the 7 because I'm just playing on the QWERTY keyboard here, and we don't have any more letters for it. So these are chords on the degrees of the scale: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When I'm trying to learn music theory, I've kind of got this is the part of music theory that's called functional harmony. And functional harmony sort of thinks that these different chords have certain purposes, right? This first one is called the tonic. And what the tonic means is it's the kind of the root note of it kind of defines the key we're in. It's the kind of place we normally start on and we want to come back to. Okay, we don't have to. None of these rules, all these rules can be broken if we want to. But nevertheless, that's the kind of home. That's where we feel we're going to come back to. We might go and then come back here, or come back to this one. But we may start here and then start going around, come back again. The chord progression is a sequence of these numbers. Now, normally musicians are thinking in terms of those numbers, but they're also translating those back into what the real notes are. And they've got to be able to do this not just in C major, which is kind of easy because it's just the white notes of the piano, but any other key you like. You know, even if you're starting up here, you've got to remember what those different combinations of notes are to be playing on those degrees of the scale in that key, in D sharp major or D sharp minor or whatever. I've been writing code which, because I'm a programmer and I like to let the computer do the hard work for me, but I'm not trying to get the computer to compose music for me. I want to compose the music myself, but I want the computer to do the calculation. So I've been writing code where I can just write in the number 1 and it will give me, I tell it what key I'm in, I tell it what the root note is, I tell it am I in major or minor, it will calculate what the notes are. So this is a library which I'm calling, for historical reasons, GoldenPond. It's a library, it's an open source library. I'm not going to go too much into how it's written in this video because otherwise this video will get very long and convoluted. So what I thought today is I'm going to show you the tool I've built with it in action, and in future videos we're going to go and talk about how it's written behind the scenes. And there's quite a long story there. It's had quite a history. In fact, it's been written and rewritten in several different languages. Yeah, so we won't go into that today. But what is very exciting is, as you can see, I'm in FL Studio. Previously, when I've done stuff like this, and there are some videos of me doing it with Sonic Pi, I've used Sonic Pi to generate those chords. I've sent them via MIDI to FL Studio. The great thing about FL Studio now is that ImageLine, the people who write it, have added Python scripting to several parts of it, but including the piano roll. So this is, if we open up the piano roll here, this is the piano roll. Normally you would come in here and you would just click in some notes. Yeah. But we can now have a Python program behind the scenes that's actually editing or adding notes to this thing. So that means we can now create scripts with a little user interface that will let us add some interesting stuff to this piano roll. And that is what I can now use to generate chords. So let's just start this off. So when you start up GoldenPond, you're going to get something like this. And as you can see, it's defaulted, it's just playing chords, and it's just playing the 1 chord here. So we're in the key of 6, that happens to be C major. You can see the root note of the chord is here. We're in major here, and you can see on the left, the notes it's generating are those for our 1 chord of the sequence. We can go to minor. That moves down 6 major. Now we can go to obviously something like the 5 chord. In fact, you know, this is very like classical music is pretty much based around this relationship between the 1 and the 5. The 1 is something called the tonic, the 5 is sometimes called the dominant. We can take a bit of time to get to the 5. We'll do 1, 3, 6, 5. Maybe go for 4 here. Switch it up a bit more interesting. Right, this is a classic sort of 4 chord loop here. Maybe just bring it down a little bit. So this is the principle. This is the principle of GoldenPond, that we're typing our chord sequence in here. That we're typing our chord sequence in at the top here, and it's generating the notes for us. Now we can do something a bit more sophisticated with these chords. Instead of having just you know, the basic triads, we could make them sevenths. So I'm going to start playing this, and I'm going to start showing you some things. Now, obviously in the documentation there's more details about how you represent these things. If you ever saw some of my earlier videos, you'll recognize some of my conventions I started using. Not all of them, because unlike the previous stuff I was doing in Sonic Pi, where we were very much restricted to the syntax of the Sonic Pi language, which is basically Ruby, in this one we've actually got a little parser that's parsing this string of characters, so we can kind of use the notation we want. Now, typically, sometimes you'll hear people talk about what they call Roman numeral notation, and in that case then people will write chords with things like this, and that's using capital letters to say it's a major chord, or they might use lowercase letters to say it's a minor chord. Now, if you know what you're doing, that's very useful, but one of the convenient things about GoldenPond is that if I just write the number 4 here, it's going to work out which sort of chord it is based on whether I'm in major or minor. I don't have to remember whether the chord itself is a major or a minor chord. I just have to tell it we're going to be in a major or a minor tonality, however you want to call this. I'm a little bit I've called it mode here, but I'm resisting that because that's slightly different from how we often think of modes. As well as the basic triads, we can have sevenths. If I put a 7-1, that tells it we're going to have the one chord but with sevenths, right? So if we do that, it's got to put a dot there, comma. So that's a little bit of a sort of leaden sounding thing. Now let's get on to thinking about how we can make these a little bit more interesting. So the other thing that the GoldenPond library and tool can do for us is they can arpeggiate these chords. So, and they do it in a slightly interesting way. We're using what's sometimes called a Euclidean algorithm. Now, a Euclidean algorithm is simply about spreading a number of hits across a number of steps. So let's just take a simple example here. Let's suppose this grid is a 16-step grid, and I could say put hats every 4, right? So this is a way of spreading hats quite evenly across 16. We've got 4 hits spread evenly across 16. I could also try spreading, let's say, only 3 hats across 16. Now, I'm not going to be able to do this exactly perfectly evenly, at least not if we're sticking just to the regular pulses or the regular beats or columns here. So I'm going to have to make an approximation. So here it's always going to have a bit of a rhythm to it. It's not clear exactly the right place to make the most even spread. I can sort of put them across here. Maybe that's about as even as it can get, but there's a bit more of a gap here. So you're getting a slightly interesting rhythm trying to spread 3 across 16. Now, the Euclidean rhythm spreads k hits across n columns or n slots or n things like that. And so just by adjusting those two numbers, you'll get different rhythms. So let's go back to our piano again. And let's go to our, bring up GoldenPond. Take the silence off. I'm going to make the chord length, it's 4 at the moment. That's quite a chord rhythm that's quite fast. So let's put that up to 8. You can see now that we've spread them out a bit more. Now I'm putting my rhythm K and 8, 4 out of 8. So that's going to be, well, let's start with 2 out of 8, right? 2 in 8 is going to be every 4th note. So let's put my rhythm of my arpeggio to that 2 in 8. Now you can hear that it's playing a bit of an arpeggio on those chords, quite regularly. Let's put it up to 4 in 8. Double the frequency. Sounds more like an arpeggio would. But we can also say take it down to 3 in 8. Like a tresillo rhythm or a sort of more Latin. Or put it up to 5 in 8. I'm going to pull that note proportion down as well to make the chords a bit shorter. Now there's more going on. It makes more sense to reduce that. And yeah, we can go more exotic. We can have 5 in 13, or we can have 9 in 13, let's say. We get a whole range of different rhythms here. Now, in addition to the Euclidean, just as basic arpeggios, take the chords off if you like, also put a bass note, just the lowest note of the chords. So we can do a bass line, same rhythm generated here, or put at the top note. Or we can even choose just random notes from the chords. They've gone up an octave, but they're... So we're almost getting like a little random melody being built here. Same rhythm, change the rhythm if we like. 7 in 10. We just get a groove going. We'll put our Euclidean in again. So this is GoldenPond, this is what it does, this is what the tool does, and obviously we are not restricted to just 4 things here. I mean, a lot of chord production, a lot of chord tools tend to have a fixed number of chord slots that you select with the mouse or GUI, but you know, because we've got text here, we can just have as long a thing as we like, and we can just start making some variations. Now, we've got another idea here called inversions. You just have to put an I at the end of some of these numbers and you'll get an inversion of it. So let's just take the... Take it up even further if we like. We can also use a 9th chord here, let's say, or maybe try to put that in somewhere where we can see it more clearly. See it there. I'll show you the 9th at the first. Right, you can see there are 9. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 9th chord is just like adding yet another 3rd stacked on top of the 7th. So we've got the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Another thing we can do. So this is in major. Let's just hear how it sounds in minor for a second. Six in 9 is obviously slightly more regular. 5 in 9 is quite interesting. And we could pull this down to 4 to double the speed of it all. Well, we double the speed of the chords, we don't actually double the speed of this. We could do something even a bit weirder here. We can like put a division of 3 on it. And let's make our chord length 6. We can almost put it into like a 3/4 time, or so now we've suddenly created more of a like 3/4 groove here. So you can actually learn a lot. I mean, you can get a lot of different effects just by playing around with these controls here, but the really interesting thing, at least from my perspective, is that you can learn quite a lot about harmonic progressions and the music theory simply by applying some of these numbers. So another idea, which again you'll have seen from an earlier version of this, we're in minor at the moment. We can, of course, also borrow from the from the parallel major. So here we are in the key of, looks like we're in 55 here. We're in the key of G, but we can G minor, but we can borrow, let's say, this chord here, the 3 chord from the parallel major, G major. Here we go. Come around again. There you go, that's the major chord coming in, or the chord borrowed from the G major. And we're going to borrow this from the G major as well. Maybe just pull that up, invert that a couple of times. Now often this works well the other way around. If you're in the major key and then you've got to borrow from the parallel minor, maybe just make that the ninth. Got to put it back to a 4/4 time here, but give it a bit more of a groove. Now once we accept this, obviously we can stop playing. Now another thing you'll notice here, it's harder to read in fact, but these different parts are actually, let's give ourselves 4 different parts here, accept that. They are different colours. Now colours on the FL Studio piano roll actually represent different MIDI channels. So what we can start doing is we can start pulling these somewhere else. Let's the way this works, we can just say select, and we can select by colour. That's going to select our first colour here, which is the chords, and let's just add, that's just a simple dark piano type sound, and we'll just now cut these and we'll put them onto the dark piano. And we might just take it down an octave. Yeah, I'm not sure if I do want to take it down an octave. I'm not even sure I really like that sound actually. Maybe I need some other sort of sound. Oh, maybe I just need to take the volume down for a start. Put a bit of reverb or something on it. Okay, yeah, it sounds nicer like that. And we can keep doing the same thing. Let's just add, now something I quite like is, here we go in flex. Flex got nice instruments. I'm going to use the wind instruments and pull up the clarinet, staccato. It's another favourite of mine. Don't know yet if I'm going to do anything with that, but let's. Now, the important thing here is that you've actually got to choose one of the notes of the colour you're interested in. So I'm going to choose this arpeggio note, and now if I do the select by colour, you'll notice we've selected those. I'm going to take those into the clarinet. Now okay, let's pull that back to the E piano. Now that high there is a lot we can generate with this. Now, I think I'm going to leave this video there because it's already way too long. In future videos, I'm going to be doing some more jamming and more composing with this tool. I will go into the code and take you through how the code works, take you through more of the ideas of the GoldenPond language. We've not covered everything yet. In the description will be links to pages about it, the GitHub repository, where you can get this tool for FL Studio, the script for the piano roll, and we will take it from here. There's going to be a whole series of content around this stuff because, as I say, I've been working on it for a couple of years. It's not finished. I've got loads of ideas where I'm taking it next, but I think this is a good moment to just do a bit of public talking about it. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Sinus Media, and I'm out.